Welcome to the LewdPixels.com podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. This is going to be a big one. It's our first podcast number 1. The whole bloody team is here. Well, most of them anyway. Lewd, say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Totes,
Hello.
Invixer,
Hello, everybody.
Laura,
Hi.
Karina,
Hello, y'all.
and Oyster Keeper are all of our team here. Sorry, dude, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me say hello.
Yeah, sorry. And today we're joined by Sir Dammed and Alorth, the developers behind Radiant. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. Just to let you all know, the website, as I said, did go live today, which is, what, how long has it been, Lude? A few months now in development?
Half a year, probably. Longer than I want to admit.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work. Yeah, but it's been crazy, but it's good that we finally got here.
It's been great. It's been a long journey, but it's really good to see it finally live.
Yeah, and we've got some great articles on the site already.
We do. We have an interview you did yourself with Braindrop, the developer of WBM. There's a guide on Unrun, so for all you wanting to hack and mod your Rampy games and cheat your way through them, we have a list of the best new games to try out this May, as well as a couple of reviews for games like Light of My Life, Bad Teacher, Milky Touch, Fetish Locator, among others, as well as a good little featured article about Free Roam Folly.
Where I basically just rant. It was still fun to write it.
Well, it's a good introduction to people to the site to see how Pixel Republic's articles are going to be. Just rants.
Well, look forward to more of that in the future.
I sure look forward to editing them.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So yeah, we're here to talk about bloody Harem games as their number 1 podcast topic. Come on, someone kick us off. What are your
Way
favorites?
to sound so enthusiastic about it. We're here to talk about bloody harem games. Oh,
Damn Harem games.
Well,
damn harem games. It's like we've
well-
coerced you into this.
well, it
still
is
tied up.
kind of funny. It is kind of funny that harem, the root of the word harem actually means forbidden.
Mhm.
So it was initially a word to describe a part of a house where, shall we say, other men weren't allowed.
It's where all the
So it was
concubines and all that stuff were kept, wasn't it?
concubines, etc.
Mm.
So it's an interesting word for something that is, in many ways, a very open form of relationship.
This is the sort of content we're giving you guys. We're bringing you real education right here. We're starting with well, it's kind of funny, and did you know? Yeah.
Well, hey, we have to put some context.
Hey, I appreciate a good did you know of all the people in this podcast right now. I'm the one who's going, wow, really?
But a Harem game usually involves when the MC has more than one potential love interest. Usually it's 5, usually it's more, though. A good question is, what does constitute a harem game? Is if the MC could go out to 2, is that a harem? Does it have to be 3? Does it have to be 4? Or what's the limit to consider the harem game?
It's when everybody wants that D.
Yes. Yeah, but
Well,
like,
it's-
how many
yeah.
does it need to be? That's the question.
Everybody.
I don't think there should be a threshold, should there?
I don't think
Well-
there's an actual threshold, but
Two's a love triangle.
yeah, pretty much.
3's a
More
I think
crowd.
it's anything
Two.
more than 2, and yeah.
3 is a crowd, and 4 is an amazing time.
Four's a harem. Here we
Yeah.
go.
There we go.
There we go.
You heard it
You've
here
now,
first.
heard.
Yep, you've now learned the word meaning and the official definition of a harem game. We're bringing you
Anything
all
less
the
than
interesting
4 is not
trivia
harem.
here.
Oh, yeah,
Heard it first at
Lewdpixels.com.
LewdPixels.com. Do the jingle, Laura.
Actually heard the term harem in anime first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much a term that originated
Harem
from sort of
anime.
Eastern
Yeah.
media.
Although the word is originally Middle Eastern and has been kind
Yes.
of spread around the world. So yes,
And here I am doing an Invixa. I did a bit of research on this because I am that nerd. And some people argue the first harem anime, the official harem anime, was in 1992. But themes, the trope can be perceived in an earlier one in 1989. So that's how long your harems have been around. And it definitely is something that has originated from, hentai anime, that concept of all the girls and the romance and the pick in between. But yeah, it's not something that's totally eluded Western media up until that point. I think as long as men have been creating anything, the idea of a man who every single woman wants is gonna be an appealing topic.
What you
What
mean?
do you think about reverse harem?
Who's harem?
Reverse harem is usually
Reverse,
when
like,
it's not something you see as often in actual like adult games. You see more in anime. Like I said, it was popularized in say anime and manga and hentai specifically. But it has staying power. Like you mentioned, like the first recorded one dates back to like 1989, and we're like 2020 now, and people still talk about harems, and it's still a big topic, and lots of games involve it. Speaking of games, Sir Dammed or Alorth, do you have any good harem games that you really enjoy playing or that
yeah,
really
they're
stuck with you? Yeah, they're here, right?
Parental Love, Where the Heart Is. Those are my two main ones right now.
Well, I think that brings up the question: is it a harem game where the heart is? Mostly, it's behind people's back, right? They're not aware
Yeah, it's more
of
cheating.
you.
I think it's getting there. Yeah, it's getting to that point. But there's a lot of girls in that game still.
I would
Yeah.
not consider it a harem game yet.
hmm
Harem is pretty much about the females accepting each other's sharing the male character.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Parental Love is a good example.
Yeah, that's gone really crazy recently.
Yeah.
But that does raise the question: is raiding going to be harem?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It is. So the three daughters will be aware of each other fucking the dad, basically.
Pretty
Fucking
much.
their landlord.
Yeah. Pretty much every
Spoilers.
game that I make will be harem. That's what I'm all about. So I think that's what Alorth likes too. So it works out.
My game
Well,
is
yeah,
also a harem game.
yeah. I was gonna mention your other game you do, Alorth Echo Paradise, is a big harem game. It's shaping up to be a bigger. It's still early development, isn't it?
Yeah,
So it's gonna be a harem game.
It's planned to go over 50 mine
Over 50 Neckos, so that's gonna
50.
You're
That's gonna
planning
be fun.
over 50 Nekos?
50 Neckos and 50 children. Daughters, 50 daughters with the 50.
Yeah, probably best not to call them children in this
Yeah, I
context.
was going to say daughters.
But see, that's a harem game right there.
I mean, that's going back to the more sort of traditional harem, because I believe originally the harem was also where the children of the concubines were kept. But, sorry.
Yes, Professor Laura, tell us more about this, Professor.
No, having played Neko Paradise, there is. It's into the game lore, the idea that this world you've created is very much a free love world, and the idea that a man is such a rare thing. Of course, everyone's gonna worship the man.
Can I mention like a spoiler from the most recent update? The woman that you saved?
Yeah.
That was like a great moment, like as in developing it into a harem game. I think that was probably the first where the existing wife was just so accepting of it, as in this is our society.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool to see. It was fun. Like there wasn't drama about it, if you understand.
You understand that the name is Nina. She was also first a commissioned character, and I introduced it like that in a harem mode because it's going to be like that anyway. The difference is that the commissioned characters have a faster story going on, so they go straight away more to a sexual relationship than other characters.
Ah, okay. The other characters have a bigger build-up.
You raise an interesting point though, because in your game, the harem is an accepted and encouraged aspect of the world in which it's set in. So, I mean, do we think harem games are better or more interesting when there is drama or when there is, welcome or happy families?
I think it's better if you've got where it's accepted. For example, in another game that's even got harem in its name, Harem Hotel, it's accepted that people have harems in that game.
Well, drama is something that can be interesting for some people. Some don't care about it. For example, in my game, I have some drama. It will have some drama, but I said, because the one girl that in the last update you had something with her, if you choose to have something with her, that's Autumn. Your wife, she hates Autumn because of the relationship they had together with when they were smaller. And Autumn was a big bully to Violet, and that comes the hate from. And when you decide to have something with Autumn, well, Violet at some point will know, and that will cause some drama.
I think I became the first person to not romance Autumn who has ever played that game, because I ended up discovering a rather large and intensely annoying bug related to not romancing her.
What you don't know is that if you choose to have something with Autumn, that was the past from the player. In the present, you would have a daughter with her that you don't have because you didn't play the truth.
Oh wow, okay.
And she
That's
killed
interesting.
the froggy.
Yeah, on that subject, I'm all about the drama. I really like, like the risque and cheating and sneaking around. I mean, for me, that's like half the fun, especially in like harem building games. Because it kind of gives you a challenge and makes it. I mean, to me, it just makes it more interesting. And then there's the build up, and then the payoff eventually once you finally get through all that and get to the actual harem. So
Yeah, no,
So can we expect to see a lot of drama coming through in Radiant then?
yeah, to an extent. I did want to go a little bit more lighthearted than in Polarity, because Polarity's kind of like really intense sometimes.
No shit.
But yeah,
I really want to play Radiant.
Are we going to have a recurring theme then? Are we going to find a beloved pet killed in Radiant as well?
no deaths in Radiant.
Spoilers.
It's more on
Have
the
you already played it?
no
Have you all
deaths.
played it?
There was
You're the
already
only
a
one.
death in Radiant, though. Come on.
Oh yeah, true. You don't kill the
Okay.
cat, you
Yeah.
just kill the mother. That's all right.
That one.
Well,
That's
I want to play it.
So another question regarding the whole harem thing is, at what point does it become too much? I mean, at what point does an update have to be overwhelmingly huge to give all the various characters some time and character growth?
From a developer standpoint, I think 50 Nicos to me sounds pretty insane. I don't think I could personally keep up with that, but if anybody could do it, it would be Alorth. But from a player standpoint, there's no such thing as too much. Like, it's all.
Well,
There's no such thing as too much Nico.
Yeah.
I brought it up in my interview with Braindrop, that was he worried that the players would feel that they weren't getting enough quote unquote quality time with any one individual girl, because that MC, it's even written into the story, is being so stretched. And he's been so dividing his time trying to spend some little bit of ounce of time with each girl that it kind of feels like you can never really fully develop anything with any individual one.
I actually have a way to try and circumvent this, and what I'll do is I'll have like a main cast of romanceable characters, and then uh any girl in addition to that is more of a side character. So that way you still get the same amount of time with the main cast in every update, and when you have extra time or you want to change it up and do something extra, then you can kind of like bounce around uh, to the side characters. So I think that's a good way to do it. I think I mean, it's been a while since I played WVM, but I think as long as he doesn't keep introducing girls like that are sort of presented to be as important as the others, I think that could be a problem. I kind of noticed that it was hard to differentiate between the main cast and like the side girls when I did play it. So
Yeah, but I think
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, I feel like when you're introducing characters, you kind of have to have a narrative to go with them. Like, you have to, like you were saying, you have to figure out, is it going to be a main cast or is it going to be a side cast character? And a big issue I have with WBM, like you mentioned, is it's hard to tell what the narrative's going to be, and it's hard to see if there's any follow through with the narratives, because you get invested in a character that gets introduced, but you might not see any content with them in forever. Like for me, I really like Stacy, the redhead. I think that's her name. But there hasn't been much content with her, but I've been hoping for it. But she seemed like she was going to be a main cast type of girl, but maybe she's more of a supporting cast type. But it wasn't as obvious for me when I was playing it.
Well, I mean, she is living in the house, and we both had a running bet going on to see if she would turn
Yeah.
out to be the sister. So maybe, like, we were thinking, maybe that's why there's no content.
The main problem is that the difference between a VN story and a VN sandbox like Neko Paradise is that in normal VNs you are pretty limited on the quantity of characters you can offer to the player. In the sandbox, you don't have really a limit. You can match each character is choosable and has its own route, so you don't have a limit. If you would make like 100 characters on Radiant, it would be pretty hard because it's not a sandbox.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask Pixel. Do you think that a harem game where it is open
No.
world but without the grind, where all you do
No.
is choose which girls you
No.
pursue and
No.
ignore whichever ones you don't,
You're
would that
asking
be an
Pixel
open world
about a
game that you would
harem.
play?
You're asking
Pixel about an open
freedom.
world game. This is
I
not true.
know. I'm trying to get reaction out of him. Come on.
No, because it kind of feels like it's more of a fucking meat factory then. Like, guys, I can't remember the name of the game now. It got abandoned, sadly, like about 8 years ago, but it was free roam, and it was harem and stuff like this. Like, sadly, it was about corruption, about mind control, so it wasn't even romancing. It was just some magic, if you know what I mean. But it felt like these girls were just there to service you. Like, not even harem, as in you were actually having an honest emotional relationship with them. It was just they were a meat factory.
No, that's what I'm talking about. If it was a game that was romance based but had a wide range of characters for you to add to your harem, and it was up to you which ones you added, but in an open world setting, so you wouldn't have the issue that you had with WVM in terms of
No, but I think the issue with WVM is even Braindrop having just the time to develop those stories much, because I mean that same issue is going to be there in a free roam game where we wait and we wait and we wait for so long for one particular girl's story to be fully flushed out to anything that is meaningful, and each of us will have our own particular favorite one. And when if like a developer kind of says, right, I'm just going to spend like the next 4 updates just developing this one girl's path, and then I'm going to do this other girl's path, he's still alienating a lot of his fans. And that's why I think it being linear is better, because at least we're getting a little bit through the story, and there is sex with a lot of the girls. I just wish that the relationships were flushed out more, and that's why I was saying to him, like, the question about is he ever going to expand his team so that he can deliver more and flush those relationships out more, rather than just cramming it all into one day, if you understand?
That's true what Pixel said. I have some fans that are waiting for certain characters, but at the same time, there are not that many because I focus on giving unique character. Each Neko or female is a unique character, and it doesn't really matter which character I update. Most of them are liked on the overall fan base.
Although speaking about that, as developers, when you see some of like the community responses, does it kind of influence what characters you want to develop next? Say you had a character in mind, but you see that the community really likes a different character. Do you then start developing that character more, or do you stick with your plan?
After each update, I do one or two voting polls. One is at least for the three characters that are most voted. Of course, the voted characters are almost every time the same, and if they got voted once, I remove them from the next vote, so that some characters get also more content. But I do implement some boss content anyway.
Basically, I write a first draft of the game, and it's written like several chapters ahead of time. But what I do is I go back and I write a second draft, and if people like one girl a lot more than I thought they would, I'll sometimes try to fill it out. Like I'll add, I'll add to a scene, because I usually, by the time the script actually ends up in the code, it's been revised a lot anyway. So yeah, to an extent, but I try to not so much ignore, but I try my best not to let anyone influence the direction of the story, because everybody's, they all have their preferences and whatnot. But
yeah, everyone's a critic and everyone has their different favorites, and you're never going to please them all.
Yeah, a lot of critics.
Do you feel like if, say, you do end up saying you see the community response and you do end up just working on that character, you think it could like muddy up a bit the story, where you feel kind of, oh, I see that the community really likes this character, and now you feel rushed that you have to come up with a story or change the story? Or do you just try to stick to what you wanted to that character to be as much as you can?
Yeah, I try to stick to it personally.
It can depend also.
Yeah.
I think from a developer point of view, whilst listening to the community is great and getting feedback is great, it's you have to trust yourself that you've written a good story, and you have to stick to your schedule. I mean, it's so easy to get distracted by a new character that you've created and then just pour effort into that character, but you have to moderate yourself. You have to make sure that you stick to your rotation, whatever rotation you have planned, so that characters do get equal time, but like sometimes maybe you have to wait 3 updates to get progress on the character that you as a player prefer.
Well,
But either way, you couldn't always predict that in 3 updates I'll get progress with my favorite character.
but you did that with A New Home, whereby the Anthem, the story, basically directed DMC's romantic options. And you kind of, well, at least you could choose just to go down one girl's path first and then go down the rest. That was a
Yeah,
different
but
way to do
that
it.
was. I mean, when you think about it, there was a very limited number of characters in comparison to some harem games in that one, so therefore it was possible to do that.
Sure.
I mean, there was, for that whole setup, there were only 3 options each time.
But it's going to get more muddy, more complex with chapter 2, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and that's why chapter 2, because I'm keeping it as a straight visual novel and not going open world at all, with it, is it means that updates are going to be, there's going to be more time taken between updates to have the level of content that I want to put in each update.
Yeah, when I first started Polarity, I actually I did a poll, like a Patreon thing, because I actually needed a couple of extra characters. I had like a set amount of characters that I needed to introduce, and I needed to fill out the like the dojo, like the taekwondo thing. So for the highest dollar tier on Patreon, people that subscribe to that could get their own custom characters. It ended up being a lot of work, more than I initially had anticipated.
That's like me that have to do characters that are not Nekos for Sir Dammed. Characters.
Yeah.
I did the game before was like demon and angels, not even normal humans. But my first character, also the Nina, the one that made the part of the rescue here, she took me the most time of all the characters because she was a lot different. I had to make my own first time that I have to make my own texture skins for full on Photoshop, and it took me a whole week to edit the whole character and do it. It was pretty hard.
And yet you're wanting to make 50 characters.
No, not every character is that hard to make.
Yeah,
So
to your credit, the work you put in is absolutely stunning. There were moments playing Radiant and Neko Paradise that I was genuinely gobsmacked at the quality of the art involved. So yeah, your time's well spent.
imagine me spending a whole day for a specific character for Radiant. Then you can imagine.
I look forward to seeing her naked.
But can we expect to see any Neko characters in Radiant then?
Maybe cosplay at most.
Yeah, if we don't get the girls to
Yeah.
cosplay at some stage, I'm going to be disappointed. I want the girls there coming downstairs like, Daddy, look, and the little kitty ears and everything. We want the
Yeah,
we want the references,
you gotta dress them up sometimes. Yeah.
butt plugs and all.
Well, to dress them up about all, you also have to undress them, you know? That's what the
Yeah.
game's all about. But in a more serious question, so like since you both well, all of us here seem to enjoy playing horror games, what kind of influenced you to want to make a horror game? Like what got you interested in the topic in the first place?
Because the people want to. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
I think to an extent it's the fantasy of it. I don't think any developer actually writes or produces a game that they don't feel they don't have that attraction to the subject matter. So I think a lot of us developers we like to have many options, though not necessarily in real life, but we do like the fantasy of it. So
Yeah, I really like the fantasy of it. But I really wish there there was a harem, inverse harem game.
I mean, I just wish there were more female-led games in general, sure, but as many developers are men and most of the audience is men, then yeah, we're going to keep getting games made for the male fantasy, unfortunately.
Well, I mean,
Unfortunately, I still enjoy being a male and with a lot of girls wanting me. It's still.
yeah, I mean, it's a fun fantasy, but I mean, getting it to work in real life, like, speak for yourself that some of us don't want that, but it wouldn't work. It is too. It's a nasty kind of place to go. But the kind of second point about like the industry being primarily male, we do have a really big female element to our community. I mean, I know I'm going a bit off topic here, but there are a lot of women in our community.
Yeah. Going back a bit more on topic, I feel like so what Invic's saying, a lot of at least for me, I don't know if it's the same for the developers for this, but it's just that living vicariously through the game where you get to explore a fantasy that, okay, maybe Pixel wants it to be real and maybe I do also, but it's just not feasible to do it in the real world. So having it in a game, you get to live vicariously through the characters and actually like live out a fantasy that you might have. And I think that's what the biggest appeal for like harem games or like incest games is to me, that you get to explore that fantasy more deeply, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. A lot of inspiration comes down to being a little perverted myself, probably. And I try to give lots of love to my games. Not just some spamming some stuff. No, I really want to give a feeling in it. That's my main objective.
Yeah, you have to be kind of a degenerate to be a game developer, I think. Well, at least this kind of video game. You don't
Kind
have
of
to be, but yeah, you don't have to be, but I think it makes it that much better. But
And
yeah,
as far as degenerates in the industry goes, Sir Dammed, you were definitely, considering what your games featured, yeah, you're one of those up for anything types I've definitely found.
thank you. I know.
I don't even take that as a compliment. Like,
Of course,
yes, I am a massive pervert.
it is easier to make a game for perverts if you're a pervert yourself and you know what people will like and not. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much key.
Exactly.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
I think one of the things that annoys me is the whole being a pervert is a bad thing opinion that people have, because there's nothing wrong with being a pervert. There's lots of healthy perversions out there. So yeah, I don't see why it's a bad thing.
I agree.
Revel
with
in
that
it.
completely. Yeah.
There are two or three types of perverts. One type of pervert like me, and probably most like Sir Dammed and other players, are they are just pervert when they are home. They want to play something pervert. They're having fun. They're playing games and stuff. And there are the other type of perverts that don't do that. They do bad things outside home. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I was
there's
gonna say
definitely a separation.
I'm going to say the two different kinds are you, Alorth, who get paid for being a pervert, and the rest of us who just enjoy what you're paid to do.
That's the first type.
Yeah, and
Well,
I think
that's
a
what
lot of it.
lootpixels.com aims to be, a place for perverts to enjoy being perverts.
But no, like, I don't think it's just about being a pervert. You know, the ability to create content like this. Like, you must be a pervert. You must be a degenerate or something like that. I just think you need to have an imagination, a bit of experience, a bit just being able to come up with these ideas in order to write and create stories and characters like that.
Yeah, you have to be a creative pervert.
All I was going to say is we can see, though, that your creativity, for all you're saying that you tend to focus more on the erotic, that certainly helps you in other ways, because we can see your skill, particularly, has developed from polarity into Radiant, just the general level of writing and storycraft and character creation.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, Polarity and Radiant, I started writing it roughly the same time, and prior to that, I never wrote an erotic story, quote unquote. Like I would write stories that would have certain like erotic parts to them, but you know, never like a porn story. So
You've got the badge of being one of the few adult games where I have heard multiple grown men declare how they were brought to tears during it, though.
yeah, that's true.
And that's not a euphemism.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Hey, everything's a euphemism if you say it with the right, great intentions.
Well, getting back to the topic of harem games in general.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah, let's thinking about harem games. I mean, you've got various tropes within the whole harem game thing. There's the romantic harem games, which have been discussing. There's also the corruption/mind control ones. I mean, it's my opinion that the romantic ones are more difficult to write because you have to create so many varying personalities for all the girls in the harem. But, I mean, what do you guys think about that?
No, I do. I often look at the kind of corruption games as lazy writing. It's easy writing, if you understand, because the romance ones are more interesting. It's almost like you can get more invested in the story because you've put in a little bit of work of romancing this girl, if you understand.
I think it's better that when each of the girls or boys, if you're into that sort of harem, are have their own individual characters. It shows that the writer has thought about it and is, not just doing lazy writing, as Pixel said.
But wouldn't it be fun to have a a corruption-based game where you do have a harem, you're using some sort of magical artifact or whatever to either corrupt or open up the minds of the people to join the harem, but it doesn't quite make them mindless and each one reacts differently.
I think it's just a way to. That's just a short way to go over structure development, because if the writer or the developer probably can figure out how to make a proper development.
Well, there's a good example of like what you were mentioning, Mixer, like a corruption harem game. There's this game called Snow Days, where the MC is trapped in his house with his sisters and his mom, and he uses his musical device to kind of end up slowly corrupting them and like mind controlling them and makes them like part of his harem, where he seduces all. I think he has 3 sisters, I believe, and his mom. So he ends up seducing all 4 of them and having sex
But
with
it's
them, and
open world, so
well,
So I hate
it's not a really open world kind of, but that's not the point. The point is that it takes the more of the corruption and part of the harem, and it's a different spin. I feel like the ones that are more popular are the romance ones, because most people just prefer the actual challenge of winning them over and actually getting them to like you. When in a corruption game, it's like what Snow Days is, you use the little metronome, magic metronome that brain controls them, and they're already yours, and there's not much of a challenge to get them to be part of the harem. Like it just clicks easier. But when it's romance, you actually have to take them out on dates or romance them.
Yeah, I think with corruption, the part of the challenge is making it believable. Because it's at a certain point it evolves from corruption to like at least some kind of romance, like with Sisterly Lust, how if you want, you can corrupt. I think her name was Bella, the middle sister, basically. But
Yeah, you could blackmail her.
Oh,
yeah,
I couldn't play that part. I couldn't play that path. Oh my god.
Oh, neither could I. That was just no
It was
way.
a bit too dark.
Yeah, it got pretty dark, but he did a really good job. Like if you actually do play it through to the end, which funnily enough, I went that route and then I regretted it like halfway through, but by that point I didn't feel like going back and changing everything. The main reason that I regretted it is because I found out that if you go that path, she doesn't get pregnant. So I was a little upset about that.
What the hell? Why would you not want to get her pregnant?
No, that's the thing. That's why I wanted to go back and change it, but I was like, I'm already this far, so I guess I'll just keep going. But anyway, he did. If you actually do play that, and I recommend you do, if you ever go back and play Sisterly Lust, go the corruption path,
I don't think
because
I
he
can.
does a really good job of converting that into romance later on.
I want to play it too. There's so many games I haven't played.
Well, one of the ones I was thinking of that has a corruption element, but also a romance element was Dreams of Desire. If you remember that game,
Mm-hmm. Oh god, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that had some seriously interesting corruption mechanic, but it also each character, even when corrupted, retained their own personality, which is pretty difficult to write. And always wondered whether there's going to be somebody who tries to do something like that, but with the depth as well.
Well, I mean, if you look at the game Alison Fall from the Apple, probably getting the name wrong. No, I think it's right.
That's right.
You have these different paths where you can go for the harem route, if you know what I'm trying to say, but you can also, on a different route, go for the corruption route of Alison. And I'm not sure that really was the formula for perfect storytelling of both harem and corruption, because they're two different things. But it was interesting that he did it that way. I think he was trying to please everyone at once, which I don't think was the best idea.
Always a bad idea to try to please everyone at once, because you just can't please everyone at once.
No, but to what Pixel was saying with the corruption, the problem with that is sometimes people don't like it. Depends on the type of person playing the game. Some people see corruption and they're put off by it, so that's why I think you don't see as many corruption harems. So at least I don't see them. I go for more of the romantic ones because I just can't get into corrupting them. I just rather romance them myself.
Getting back to what I was saying, Alison Fall of the Apple, it's kind of like 3 different games, right? With the different routes. I think he does a decent job of pleasing everyone. It's just, it takes a very long time to develop all of that at the same time.
If you guys look at Radiant, I'm sure some of you have played it. We kind of do something similar to that, where there's basically a pure romance path, and then there's like lust, like try to fuck everything type of path.
Yeah, you get the point where the game sort of goes, do you want to lust after these girls, or do you want to be a good father?
Yeah, and then there's the dark path, which is like corruption and sadism and things like that. But there's a way. My only point about this is there's a way to do it where it doesn't add so much time to development. Like if you just sort of plan it, you can, for example, you can have say 3 events per chapter of the game, and then you can do, so there's 3 paths, so you can have 3 different events, but they can all take place in the same environment, the same scene with the same girl, and the gist of it can be similar in a way, but with minor differences. And if you do it that way, it doesn't slow you down that much. It doesn't require that many extra renders. The only thing that might be different are like lewd renders, or maybe an animation or 2. But yeah, the way I plan to do it is 3. There's 3 paths, so you'll get 3 separate events at one point in the chapter, and then later on in the chapter you might get another 3 separate events. So at most, 6 total. And then once you get closer to the end of the game, that's when it'll kind of start to slow down development a little bit, because I actually do plan to have branching endings. So once we get really deep into it, I mean, Radiant is going to be probably 20 chapters. So once Alorth and I get pretty far into it, it'll be a little bit more work for us. But yeah, in general, as long as you do it in a way that keeps everything kind of on a consistent path, it doesn't take up that much extra time. So,
talking of endings, how do most people prefer to take their harem games? I mean, I know a lot of them have, well, some of them have harem endings wherein, everyone loves you, everyone's happy, but, or do most of you usually find yourself picking a favorite and pursuing her actively?
I think most people go for everyone, and then pregnancy. That's important.
Yeah, I mean,
every girl in the game and all of them pregnant. That's pretty much, I would say, the most popular, but there's different.
Sister Lust did great with doing that you didn't have to pick. But there aren't some games I do want to pick. Like, there might be one character that just stands above the rest, and that I'm kind of like, yes, it's fun, having sex with all of those girls, but she is your love, if you know what I mean. I just want to be with her because she's so amazing. Kind of like
Yeah.
Jamie in WVM. Christ, if she was a real woman and that was a real story, I would be 100% with her all the way. She's such a great girlfriend. I didn't like her
Yeah.
at the start, and I love her now.
Everybody's got their waifus.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm planning for the end of Volume 2 of A New Home. It's
Don't make me pick.
no, not the picking will be organic. It depends on who you spend more time with. But eventually, there's just the basic ending, which is everyone's equal, but there's also going to be various first among equals endings.
Something else I hear a lot of is people are very passionate about making sure that the ending is fleshed out. Like a lot of people were very unhappy with the ending of Life is Mary or Life with Mary, and
It was rushed, though.
yeah, and what was the other one? My Sister, My Roommate. People were
Yes.
really pissed off
Yep.
about that.
Yeah, he had to go
Although
back
he
and
did
create
fix
an
it,
ending.
right?
Yeah, but he had to because of the community outcry.
Yeah, he came back and fixed it. But
Yeah,
yeah, that
I'm actually one of the few people who actually like the ending of Life with Mary. But
I didn't think it was bad, honestly. But
No, it
it
wasn't a
was
bad ending, but
It
there was
just
so
wasn't
much
as good.
unresolved. There was
they
so many things unresolved.
players want to see them get married. They want to uh live out the pregnancy. They want like the full thing. So when I started game development, I told myself that I was gonna have like end game, which is basically where I dedicate like at least 3 chapters to what happens like after you reach your goal. So, you know, obviously I make harem games, so when you get to the end of the harem, I would also like to have a couple chapters dedicated to like living out that fantasy, not just you get there and then it ends, but you actually get to explore it.
So kind of an extended epilogue that just gives people the satisfaction they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I never realized the pregnancy aspect was such a big thing for these games. It's kind of weirdly wholesome, but at the same time, strangely, sort of fascinatingly primal. Right? You have this man with
For
all
a
these
lot
women,
of
and he wants to
people,
get them all pregnant and proceed.
for a lot of people, it's not that wholesome. Actually, it's actually
It's more.
I,
It's the taboo, especially
yeah.
when incest.
I know a
Okay,
lot of people that
probably
want
right.
to want the pregnancy so that they can turn around and date the daughters.
Oh,
18
that's so
years
not
later.
wholesome.
Yeah.
That's not wholesome. Why
For
are
real
you gonna
though.
ruin it? Why
Well,
are you gonna ruin it?
it's not wholesome. Look at Dating My Daughter. Again, has harem elements, but I'm not gonna. Well, everyone fucking plays that game, so spoilers. Sure, mute if you don't want to fucking hear them. But like,
No.
you're right now. I can't.
I think we just need to put a
Well,
big
not even
clause
that.
at the front of this thing saying "will contain spoilers."
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, we already have.
But like
Yeah.
in the
Well, not
volume,
even that. With Alorth's game, he mentioned he had this whole 50 necklace, but it also has that plan for like the children you have with the necklace or the daughters you're gonna have with the necklace. So it's just like Sir Dammed was saying, it's that
continuous spiral.
yeah, just keep the
Every
harem going forever and ever.
every Neko will have be able to have a daughter. And talking about it, normally I'm not a fan of pregnancy. That's not one of my kinks, so said. But I'm as a developer and with my creativity, I'm able to grasp that what the others like and want, like to make something really cool with it. Anyway, even if it's not really my strong kink or something.
Yeah, no, I get it, and that's kind of good that you can kind of say what I like, what the people like, that that you do have that realization that that you're able to just deliver to people. That's good.
I just like that line though. Every Neko will have a daughter. You should run for office with that campaign. I'd vote for you.
4 more years.
That's one hell of a
That
campaign.
actually brings up another little question about harem games. I mean, when it comes to writing them, and then having a true amount of variance between the characters in the harem means that eventually you're going to be writing about kinks that maybe don't turn you as a writer on. How do you get around that? Let's say you are adding a character in, and the community is maybe asking for, say, a more BDSM focused character, but that's not something that you are actually into. So how do you write that well enough for the community to appreciate it as if it's written by somebody who is into that kink?
You mean doing it justice?
You just be like Sir Dammed and into everything.
That's a good question. I do have the commissioned character that the tier that commissions the character. He wants the character to be BDSM. Of course, I'm not experienced with it, but I think that's not really a problem. As long as I keep my heart at it, it should work out. Because after all, it's a very basic understanding. Everything about the human being is about emotion. So if you keep everything emotional, it will turn out good. It means that you're putting effort and quality into it. So that's not really something that I would be worried about.
Well, the BDSM people out there, are very strict about their kink.
Well, I guess I just have to go a step forward and try it out and see how it goes on.
I hear you.
Yeah, actually, I have kind of a something a lot of people don't know about me is that I actually kind of really enjoy the darker side of these games, like
Dude, we've played Polarity.
Yeah.
We
Well,
can see the dark side.
Specifically in regards to like kinks and fetishes, like I'm actually into like sadism. So believe it or not, the challenge for me was kind of writing like purely romantic routes in the game. So like when you play Polarity, you'll kind of somebody told me once that the main character was rapey. I didn't really understand at the time what that meant, but I guess it was something kind of leaked into the dialogue that I didn't realize that came off as like rapey or something. But anyway, it just takes practice. I think once you just kind of force yourself to write, say, romance or BDSM or whatever it is, you kind of start to get into it. But Pixel is definitely correct that BDSM there's very specific uh, branching versions of that, so that's hard to cover. I'm not really into BDSM. I'm more about like the actual corruption, sneaking around, just doing like generally messed up shit. I mean that's what I have fun with in the games anyway. But
Well, actually, I did have one more question regarding the whole harem game thing, and it has to do with some, shall we call them purists out there, consider that having the women in the harem having fun with each other is somehow bad, and that sharing aspect is
Yes, that harem and sharing are two different things.
Is NTR.
Yeah, well, which isn't, whatever.
But yeah, I'm just wondering that. I mean, do you like having? This is for everyone. Do you like having the characters also be with each other, or is that something that you really don't feel should happen?
So I've had one person approach me and tell me that if one of the girls gets involved with another one of the girls, that is basically NTR. I don't really look at it that way. I think as far as like girl on girl goes, I'm okay with that, as long as they're not like straight up cucking you. Like if it's like some bull dyke like that's fucking banging your girlfriend with a strap on behind your back or something like that. That's one thing, but just in general, as far as the harem goes, I think it would be pretty boring if it was just the guy fucks all the girls solo.
Yeah, that's
like
it.
People
Yeah.
like to see lesbians. Lesbians are hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I agree.
Look at the
Agree.
again some spoilers here, but look at the last update of Parental Love when it just turned into an absolute fuckfest, and it was a great scene nonetheless. But like the MCA encouraged the two daughters to lick out both the mother's pussy and asshole at the same time, and just seeing that was kind of like, it was pretty fun.
I feel like I failed homework by not playing Parental Love before this
God.
podcast.
Yeah, it's
Why are we
great. You got
friends?
Yeah, you did.
It's a
Um,
great bit of
Nice,
it's a wild ride game, but it's fun.
Sharing and just like having like the whole harem live shit. I think I like when I play my games, I like exploring all the options and seeing like, oh, what happens if I go down this path, or what happens if I do this. Like I said before, it's a lot of these games, it's you get to live vicariously, do stuff that you might not normally do, and
Yeah,
experiment with it.
exactly. And to Sir Dammed's point, and I do agree with him, like, in those games, I'm perfectly fine. Especially like, you're going to have threesome scenes where the two girls are kissing each other before they even pay any attention to you. But eventually they do. But I think in those games, as long as it's not just being intentionally behind your back in the game, then it's fine. It's still
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, like I said, it was literally one person that complained about that. And I talked to a lot of the game's players, and I've never heard anybody else complain about it. And some of you here actually probably know exactly who I'm talking about.
I think it was the same person who complained to me about it being
Yeah.
NTR in a new home. I was like, really? Okay.
There wasn't an NTR in that, was there? Not even
no, someone thought that the final scene, the final sex scene in Volume 1, where
the four of them are having sex?
Yeah, the four of them are having sex.
That's
the
not
two girls
NTR.
together were NTRing
Some people
main
have
character,
a
and I'm like,
weird aversion. Like
Yeah.
some people kind of slightly obsessed with that.
Like, you're not being cocked. It's literally you're taking turns on each other. It's sharing. It's having sex. A foursome is a complex fucking mechanic. It's still fun.
Speaking from experience.
The best type of harem is a polyamorous harem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You all go at each other.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mind the lesbian scenes, for example. Nico Paradise already has one with Cream and Chocomite. That is optional, of course. I try to keep things optional because there is people that prefer not to watch lesbian scenes. I don't mind them. I think it's pretty odd. But every people has its own things and mind. And I get a lot of wallpaper commissions for lesbian stuff too.
I definitely agree. As long as it's lesbian, because as far as harem goes, I personally, I would never include like another dude in that. Like, I'm not quite as extreme about NTR as some people are. Like, I don't feel jealous about it, and it doesn't like upset me. But I would rather a love interest get banged by, like, I don't want to say anything that's against the rules, but I would rather a love interest have a romance with a dog than another dude, is all I'll say on that subject.
For fuck's sake, that's dark.
Yeah.
But and let's pull it back strictly onto harem. Can we go down the list and say some of our favorite harem games out there? Go on, tell us. Tell us two of your absolute favorite harem games.
I mean, Sisterly Lust, Parental Love, Where the Heart is building into a harem. There's.
I did play Sisterly Lust, and I should have mentioned that since I also work with Pervertier.
Yeah.
Across my mind.
On this harem game, there seems to be a major crossover, especially at the moment, with harem and incest. Is that?
Yeah, Dating My Daughter. Sorry. Yeah, like Dating My Daughter is definitely leading into a harem. I mean, it kind of already is a harem.
Well, did you play the last update? Damn, that was fun.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
anyone here play it? Anyone else play that last update?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. With Georgina. Oh.
Yeah, that was awesome. I actually, Georgina is my favorite girl from that entire game, so I was waiting for that. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Although
Well-
back to what you said, it's like a couple of my favorite harem games. So one of them we haven't actually mentioned, but My New Family by Killer 7, shaping up to be a really good
great
harem game, and it has a Neko girl in it also. So sure, Alorth would probably like that one as well.
Have you played that?
But it's yeah. Have you played it, Alorth? My New Family by Killer 7.
Yeah, I played it. Well, honestly, I'm not what's it called, guys. This type of games like the From Polarity, if it's good, well written, I don't mind. I played the game from Killer 7. My biggest complaint is actually because of the animations, because they're not fluent. And since I'm really picky,
it's his first game, and he is
if I
struggling to learn.
If I see animations that are not good, I go crazy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the animations aren't as fluid, but I think it's a good game. It's shaping up to be a good game. Like Pixel said, it's his first attempt at it.
Yeah, that's true. Normally, I tend to skip dialogue anyway on most games. I don't like that much to read. I like more action, and I'm not English native. I'm also not a writer. I'm mostly an artist and animator. That's the reason why I make animations for other developers too. So that's also my reason that Sir Dammed is writing Radiant, and I'm mostly doing the artistic artwork.
One of the newer games that is heading towards the harem route, but with maybe a hint of incest, but incest doesn't seem to be the main focus of it, is Bad Teacher.
Yeah.
That game is just so much fun, and it just and yeah, you do have, I mean, right straight up front, even in the first release, you do already have a sharing arrangement, not necessarily sharing arrangement, but a mini harem set up with two people almost immediately. And then there's all the other characters that come in, and yeah, it looks like it'll be a great harem game with minimal incest. So just, just say that not all harem games are incest.
Yeah, no, it's one I'm gonna have to give another try. I think I remember trying the first update, but that was it.
Did you guys actually tried out the new game from Pervertir? That's also kind of harem, and it will also be incest, but slowly.
Tales from the Unemployed. Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a nice game.
One game I forgot to mention was Midlife Crisis. The art in that game is pretty bad, and that's not a jab because some of the girls are very attractive, and he's self-aware about the bad renders, but that game is amazing. Yeah.
I love how he jokes about it.
Yeah. He sounds like a good guy, and the story is interesting. It's really interesting. Again, another one, if you only played the latest update, I'm not going to spoil it, but it had a great scene in the latest update. Something
that game
we all
is
wanted.
intense.
Yeah, it is. One game that might have kind of, we don't know, it hasn't seen an update, and I don't know what's going on with it, but is a Family Man. Like, it was looking like it might shape up to be a harem game, but we haven't seen an update, I think, in probably about 6 months now, sadly.
Yeah,
I hope
a few
the
months,
developer's
sadly.
okay.
Yeah, I actually know Mole Man, and he recently moved to live with his girlfriend, like across the country. So that's why, that's why he is absent. We actually offered for him to be Dev of the Week over in Lewd Gamers Paradise, if you guys know about that. But yeah, he couldn't do it because he recently moved, and I spoke to him about a month and a half ago, and he's still working on it.
That's good to hear. Has anyone else got a favorite you want to mention?
I've really not been involved in the adult gaming community for that long, and I find the whole harem thing, it's a bit tropey and it's a bit frustrating, and there's a lot of games out there where it's handled very badly. And the fact that so often at the moment it crosses over into incest, which is a bit of a no for me. It's a genre I've avoided, but I'm seeing it done really well in some games. I mean, I had not just fluffing you guys because you're here, but I did really enjoy Neko Paradise. And yeah, Polarity and Radiant, I had so much fun with, and I'm eager for updates to them. But yeah, I've got a name drop as well, Love of Magic. It's a harem game, but it sends up the harem genre in a little way. The main character is aware, sort of very self-aware about the tropey nature of his situation, and other characters tease him for it. And there is a sort of very valid in-game world lore reason for what's going on, but there are moments where it is just handled this sort of really tongue-in-cheek fashion that I really enjoy.
I can tell you the reason why you enjoyed that, the Or games and Droids game, for example.
Yeah.
One of the reasons is for the Droids. I know how much effort he puts into the game. He puts
yeah.
as much into it as me and Sir Dammed puts in our games.
Yeah, Droid is
He did a lot of it. He spent hours coding the stuff.
Well, I mean, some other games I would mention is like The Visit. I mean, how privileged were we to get that game, because it was only supposed to be a one update game. Like the developer just wanted to release one update just to test it out, and then the community was like, "We want more, we want more." So we did, and it turned into a well, you had paths, you had routes and stuff like that that you could go down, but it was a great experience. Again, you knock up your mum at the end. Oh, spoilers, bollocks, whatever. Spoilers. But there was another one I was thinking of.
A New Home's a pretty good harem game also, just saying. Right, Bixer?
But I don't know if it's a game any of you guys have played, but HS Tutor?
I played it. It's pretty good.
I played that for a little bit. But what I was thinking about, and I was just looking it up whilst Lud was talking here, was Long Live the Princess.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's one I've been meaning to check out.
That one, that's it's really fun as harem games go. It's it has a nice bit of a story to it as well, and I think the way it's growing, I think it might become really, really good.
But you already know my feelings on that.
Is it open world?
But it's not. It's not really that open world. If you,
but there's so much tediousness to it that you have to kind of like put together these clues when you're talking to someone. It's kind of like I literally press control for like the past 20 minutes. I have no idea what's going on now, and completely divested in the story. I just want to fuck this girl. Why are you making it so hard for me?
Well, that's the thing. It is definitely a relationship building game, but it's also not just romance, but using corruption to gain romance, which is a really fresh take on the whole thing.
There are. Sorry, go on.
Well, there is one game that I played recently, actually, that enters the harem tag, but it's also a platformer pixel game. It's called Sukubu's Affection. I really liked it because it doesn't have much text to skip. It's mainly action, but it's a harem game still, and it has an echo, so it instantly got my attention. It's pretty well made, actually. I just wish it was a bit bigger, even more content, but it has a decent amount.
While we're on the subject of kinda sandbox games, one that I enjoyed, I barely enjoy any sandbox games, was Mythic Manor. There are there's a large cast, and it felt like they all had their own personalities for the most part, and I don't know.
It also had a really good hint system, and if you're going to do a sandbox,
exactly,
you need a good hint system.
That's why I think I enjoyed it. It wasn't as hard to get to the content as some other games. There was minimal grind, if any. I don't remember. I don't think there was any at all, honestly. I think it was done really well.
The hint system is really important. That's one of the reasons that I rarely get people asking what to do next, or they want a walkthrough or something, because there is no walkthrough needed for Neko Paradise. The hint system tells everything what you have to do if you're too lazy to look around.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Pixel as far as sandbox and like open world goes, but I played Nico Paradise because I'm working with Alorth now, and the way Nico Paradise does sandbox and open world, I really don't have a problem with it because
Yeah, you have a
there's
nice tip system.
yeah, there's like a few locations. There's like 4 locations, and you always know where the girls are, and you pretty much just talk to them, go to sleep, repeat. So it's very simple, and I like the amount of detail he put into the scenery, and like the different places as well. It's really nice. So
I do have to say that Mythic Manor, I did like the game. I didn't play it now for 2 updates, I think, but the dog girl was one of the cards I didn't really like because of the shorter development. But also the hint system, I still find it rather difficult to get certain events triggered.
Yeah, there are a few events. It doesn't explain perfectly. They do have a walkthrough, but I guess it's always annoying to have to open up a walkthrough to play a game.
The main reasons for success is also that I've tried to search for feedback on my games and to look what people has to say that can be improved that I miss, because I tend to sometimes miss the stuff, and I see that certain things that people say, I can see it as improvement and not something bad. So I take every critique and try to work around it.
No, I think that is a good place to end, to bring things to an end for our very first podcast. Just wanted to say thank you to all of our team for showing up, but also thank you to Sir Dammed and Alorth. Really appreciate you guys turning up and being a part of this. It's been great to have a chat with you guys.
yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
And don't worry, below the podcast, we will put in links to their Patreon and all that, so you guys can all go check out the games, and you should, because they're all great games. You should be playing them. Why are you not playing them already?
Yeah, take a
They're
minute to just
listening
take
to
it.
us talk.
When we're going to be seeing new updates for them both? All of them, all 3 of them.
Polarity is like days away. Everybody's mad at me right now. I'm in
So
grind
maybe by
mode.
the time this podcast goes live, we might actually have a new Polarity update out.
Definitely. If I heard you correct earlier, yeah, it'll be out by then. Yeah.
What about Radiant?
Yep, that's the one I want to ask about.
Yeah, Radiant is a little over halfway done. We got pretty much everything set up and ready to go, and as I told you guys earlier, I write the story ahead of time, so yeah, we're making good progress on that. We don't have an exact release date yet, but
no, that's good. It's yeah, really looking forward to seeing how the story progresses on that game. It looks like it's going to be a great one.
Yeah, I'm also working at Nico Paradise, and my release was not that long ago, the updates, but I'm already almost for the next update coming.
Oh wow!
I did make some animations this week, but yeah, Nico Paradise will probably come first, and then will come Radiant, because I'm not that far away from the next update.
Awesome.
Looking forward to all 3 of them.
I
yeah.
can't wait.
Me too.
Well, okay, guys. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for listening. And yeah, watch the space for episode 2 of the podcast, lootpixels.com. See you guys later. Everyone say bye.
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 peace.
Thank you.
Later.
Come visit lootpixels.com for all your adult gaming news, reviews, features, guides, and interviews. lootpixels.com